So, tell everybody about your apprentice experience.
Um, the hiring process was definitely interesting as far as that goes. I think Christoph had asked me some unusual questions as far as um, like reasons to kind of take me on, I guess. He asked about my military background, like, oh yeah, I can follow orders. Yeah, okay, big whoop. I remember almost every shop I went to made a big deal about me showing up with a portfolio.
Sure.
It
They
was
want to
like,
see if you even have a potential.
no, not like bring in a portfolio, but like I was the only person to ever walk in with a
Oh,
portfolio in
right.
hand.
Yeah.
So,
That helps a lot, I'm sure.
yeah. I know Christoph made a big deal about my favorite thing to reference is when he looked at like, I don't know, my 7-year-old drawing or whatever. Cause he told me to bring everything, every piece of art I've ever owned, in. And I did. I wasn't even going to hesitate about it. I was like, I want this. So
Followed orders.
I guess, yeah. But he's commented on the sun and the way I drew the sun in
Didn't use the corner.
the corner of the paper. Yeah. So a lot of kids when they're younger, don't have the correct perception of the dimension. I don't know what the correct words are. Like I guess it would be perspective of the way that the sun sits in the sky. So when they draw it on the paper, you take the corner of the paper and you just draw a line,
Half
like
a
a curved circle, and then a bunch of lines coming off of it. And you're like, oh, sun's in the corner. But he loved that I didn't do that. I drew a circle to show that, the sun's not close. It's
game.
far away. Yeah, I guess.
He was like, this is a unique one. We got to keep her.
So that was a big deal, I guess. The military background. And the big thing for most tattoo artists that take on apprentices is that they don't have any prior experience tattooing. You don't have any bad habits to break.
Clean slate.
Yeah. So the actual apprenticeship, as far as that goes, was a lot of grunt work up front. Nobody really liked me, everybody had their own personalities. So I had to learn everybody's schedule, everybody's personalities.
Naturally, like anybody you work with.
Yeah. Well,
you have a lot of grumpy, stressed out old men.
Grumpy, stressed out old men is a very good way to describe it.
Over-caffeinated, over-nicotinated.
Yes.
I know nicotinated isn't a word, but it sounded great.
I like nicotinated. You're over-nicotinated.
Nicotined. You're nicotined, bro.
We're sticking with nicotinated.
Nicotinated.
Nicotinated. I like it.
Yeah.
So lots of older, over-nicotinated.
Stressed out people on stimulants.
Yeah. So, it's when you're in a new place, you got to like kind of like try to make yourself good. And I remember sitting there the first day and just being confused because it's not like a normal work setting by any stretch of the means. It's kind of weird to think about. You don't just go and follow somebody around like you do training at a brewery or like in a restaurant. It's everybody's like, if you're not tattooing, you're standing around bullshitting all day. And it's cool. You're with your friends, like not at the time, I didn't know anybody, but I was like, what am I doing? I'm just like sitting here and I'm like, I guess I'm going to draw. Like that seems like something maybe I should be doing. And oh God, I drew like an infinity bonefish thing. Like it was like a fish bone in like an infinity symbol. Cause I was like, oh yeah, somebody would probably get that as a tattoo. I remember like thinking that and I was like, oh God, like
Nope. Never once.
Trash. So yeah, the first day was just super awkward because it was just kind of sitting around. And almost every day for probably like the first month and a half was kind of like that because I had almost no direction from Christoph as to what I was supposed to be doing.
I remember that.
Just like going in and being like, I guess I'm just going to stand around. And a lot of it was watching him tattooing at first. And
yeah. Oh, I was going to ask you earlier. So, because you got a little bit of like drops of information about tattooing when you knew nothing about it. Now, do you still remember some of the things that he said and how he did them and you like cross-reference them and you're like, whoa, like he did it that way?
Oh yeah, I still use it to this day. And I think it's because
he had techniques for how he would do things and he was like an unconventional wizard who just kind of like made it happen. And like, are you still like flabbergasted that he like shades and lines with a dragonfly and all that stuff?
No. So I don't think anybody's gonna know like the difference. There's a few different kinds of machines that you can use, and the Dragonfly is a rotary machine. And the way it works is it doesn't have a lot of give, so you're more easily able to damage the skin with it when you're using one, because
it wants to complete its cycle and it doesn't shorten the length of its cycle.
Yes.
So it goes deeper.
Yes. Whereas coil machines have a lot of give. They work off of magnets and
they bog down when you try to go too deep.
Yes. So they have a lot more give. They're a lot more forgiving. So Christoph, out of being who he was as a person, and me at the time, I had a lot of respect for him because, he took me on. And
pretty much your spotlight too. Like you just had to go with whatever he was doing.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody looked up to him because he did good tattoos at the time,
Yeah.
But after he got fired halfway through my apprenticeship, or let go, however you would like to word it,
sure.
He, everybody kind of opened up the truth about him. And the truth really is he owned one machine because he was cheap and he didn't care about tattooing.
So he just made it work.
Yeah. So.
But he pulled it off.
A wizard, I mean, I don't know any other tattooist, and I've never met any other tattooist that has used a mag tube or a shading tube and stuck a liner in it and stuck enough rubber bands in it to make it work. And just, it's very unorthodox. I understand how it works now and how you could do it if you needed to.
He was just making it work was the definition of his tattooing process.
Yes.
And he did make it work.
He did at one point tell me he took me on as an apprentice solely because he lost all of the passion he had for tattooing and he hoped he could find it through me.
Mm-hmm. I remember that a little bit.
It's like a lot of pressure almost to just be like, and I was almost like an unpleasable person, just a failure at every turn. Everything I did was never good enough. And I mean, I understand because I started at ground zero. So of course, somebody who's at skill level experience 8,000, and I'm at experience level 0.0000001, like, of course.
Do you still use the Dragonfly?
Yeah, I only own 3. Actually, I own 4 machines, but I don't.
Ernie's and what's the Dragonfly use? What's a practical use for it?
2 Ernie D's, a Dragonfly, and the Zion.
Yes.
The Dragonfly is strictly used for shading,
Gotcha.
mag work.
Because it'll really pack it.
It was the first machine I ever owned. It was just, I don't use it for lining. I use my coil machines for lining because they are more forgiving.
That's what they're good for.
Yeah. So, Dragonfly, I think, was meant to be kind of just like a shader.
Cool. So yeah, he got let go, and at that point, what happened?
At that point, I think it was...
You at least had a relationship with everybody, so...
I had a base relationship. It was almost pity carried me through a lot of my...
Do you think it was pity why they helped you out?
Oh, yeah.
But you had a really good relationship with, like, Bill, and you still, even throughout all of that, when you were more independent, you were like, it was like Daddy Bill,
Well, so up until the point Christoph left, I had to pretty much prod any information that I got out of the guy out of him. I was really good by that point asking questions because nothing was given to me.
He didn't have a curriculum. He
No,
barely told you what to do. He was like, hey, draw finger waves, and did that for like a month.
So
that was it.
I mean, it seems like it could be a normal thing for an apprenticeship. I don't have another apprenticeship to base things off of other than the other people.
Maybe Ryan and Troy's, and
Yeah,
those
but
were pretty shitty in their own.
Both of them had their own cruddy experiences with that shop hopping and, you
Yeah.
know, so, and then Eric's was far traditional. So to like learn is just, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I got really good at asking for information all the time. So by the time Christoph left, I just asked everybody for information all the time.
And you would do 50 stickers when he left, right? You were doing 50s?
No.
Apprentice tattoos, weren't you
Oh,
doing?
yeah, I
you
was.
were
I
doing
lied.
50s.
Yeah,
You were
I
doing 50s.
totally, I was definitely tattooing by the time he left because I remember my first tattoo on somebody else. It was late at the shop. I was going to do it at 7:30 p.m. And I waited for him to show up and he never did. And I like started the tattoo.
You did like 3 lines and you were like, I don't know about this.
Yep. Because I was going to do black and gray realism as my first tattoo ever.
Hey, it would have turned out all right.
Oh, yeah. He got that covered up.
The second one was Jake's, right?
Was it? I don't remember.
Second or third. It was within the first 5.
Okay. Yeah. I remember what they are. I just don't know the order.
Yeah.
I know mine was the first. And I know
Tiffany's was really close too. It was like...
that was like 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah.
And she has her whole thigh tattooed. She loves it.
Yeah, That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you beat yourself up, and I'm like, like people don't like, they're happy to have it, unless like it's blatant. Like if they're like, you're like put Superman on me, and like the S is all it's like not an S, it looks like a 5 or something. Like then
It's
it'd
very
be like,
easy with if you get the font wrong. Let me tell you.
Yeah, but like something like that, or you do a portrait and it's like not even close or something.
Mm-hmm.
But so
apprenticeship went pretty as smooth as it could have been for going from being a single person's apprentice to being now a shop apprentice. I owe so much of my apprenticeship and like learning capabilities to Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I
really
miss working with Bill so much. I'm so happy I get to see him in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Bill's like, I owe him so much.
Go hang out with Bill and Rachel more.
If he would ever stop working, he works so much.
He is a workhorse.
I mean, all tattoo artists are, but Bill is like, whew.
He's a 6-day-a-weeker kind of guy.
I think he's chilled out a little more.
Maybe
I think
because
Rachel.
Their finances are under wrap now, or
no, I think just he's like taking more time to himself. I think Rachel has like kind of helped him like realize that breaks are important. She's very good about that. Like Rachel has she's very she's very good. Yes, at like. I don't know. She's just got a very positive outlook on life. I look up to her too. She's like good people to be around. So they both are. They're made for each other. It's cute.
Yeah, I don't know much about their relationship, but I think they're both cool people. So whatever. Yeah. So you finished it.
Yeah, I did. I finished my apprenticeship. The last thing I had to do was draw filigree for Bill. I had a task for everybody, and
I do kind of remember that. What were all the tasks?
Ryan had
like
me,
your
all of
finals?
them are super, super important to me in some way or another. So Ryan had me mock another artist. She said, you're going to have to do that throughout your career a lot.
Yeah.
And she had me mock an artist, and I picked the Rich Wren on Instagram.
Like kind of bite their style and do it in your own way.
Yeah, you take similar things from their style. And it's actually not something I've ever done before, but something I do all the time now. So it was a very important lesson.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So did that. I learned that from Ryan.
She was very insightful with that decision then. Not just, hey, do something super difficult because I hate you and don't want you to finish. It was like...
Yes. So I learned that from Ryan.
How long did that take you?
That was probably the most fun one. So I think I got it done in a few hours. I have that potion bottle hanging up at the house.
Is that what it was?
That's what that potion bottle is.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Cool.
He does a lot of potion bottles. So, but anyways, I did that potion bottle for Ryan. I don't remember what Jason's was.
Probably something just silly because you don't remember it.
Eric had me clean the dirty room from top to bottom spotless, and that sink was foul. Let me tell you, the sink that I cleaned, all of the tubes and grips in was black. By the time it left, it was like an off eggshell white cream color. So like,
for those of you that don't know, this sink is the ones that you traditionally see like in someone's basement, the big white plastic ones that people like dump nasty stuff into, mop water, whatever. They're not general household sinks. And it was like one of those that she cleaned tubes for a rotary tattoo machine.
Nope. For they could be either machine, but
it basically guides the needle from the machine to the destination.
Yeah. So you have the tattoo machine, the tube, the grip, and then the needle, and then you have the grommet and rubber bands too. But
for the non-understanding, the tube is essentially like the barrel of a gun. It's just if you had a needle going through it. So
it's the part you grip.
Yeah.
It
guides it.
But the tattoo industry used to only be metal tubes and rubber grips, and
clean and sterilize everything.
Yep, you had to send it through an autoclave and then put it, ultrasonic, and then re-wipe it all down, and then you would send it through an autoclave. And you would do that with all the stained up tubes and grips because no tattoo artist
usually
is
a lot of
a clean one,
a lot of down.
Yeah, and then but the good thing is the industry moved to disposables, which I think is just a far superior, cleaner way of handling things.
Yeah, creates waste, so it depends on who you're talking to, but it's definitely probably way cleaner and easier to do.
For sure. The industry is getting a lot better as far as like caps, making like biodegradable caps and stuff.
Or recycled plastic or something.
I'm not sure about the tubes necessarily, but I know caps, like some of the other regularly disposable things that we use.
Biodegradable, that's good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't use them. I just saw them for the first time the other day. Probably order some, I have to make a supply order, so.
There you go. What other tasks did you have?
So Bill's was filigree. I had to draw a fuck ton of filigree.
Yeah.
That was my final task, the one where once I completed that, I graduated, and I remember crying that day. Don't remember riches. Probably like shake all the ink bottles in the shop or something. And
I remember
then
you were gonna do his feet or something.
I tattooed his feet a little bit.
Yeah, but you had like a plot, like you took a picture and like we're gonna like fill in his feet, and it like never happened.
Well, I started, but I sucked at color packing at the time. It was pretty much the only direction I ever really received as far as color packing for a while. And then Troy's task was to draw. I don't remember the specifics of it, but he was unpleasable. I remember it was an unpleasable task. He gave me one idea, and then I showed him what I produced for the drawing, and then that wasn't good enough. I had to have background and all these other elements. So I threw in background and did all those other elements, and that still wasn't good enough for him. And then, at that point, like, he just, like, everybody at the shop must have been, like, berating him at that point, and he just gave up and was like, we'll just do this. And then I showed him, and he defeatedly was like, yeah, I guess it's good enough. So I think I kind of might have learned from him a little bit that, although this was not his intention by any stretch of the means, was people are not always going to be able to be pleased.
Oh, sure. Or they're like, you can't make a design that's in their perfect brain. You just have to finagle and hope that they're convinced that it's a good design.
Well, it's the interesting thing with the industry is people come in with these ideas of what they want in their head, and
they have a preconceived idea and you can't achieve it.
Not necessarily. It's brains all work different. You could tell me I want a skull and a rose, and you're definitely going to imagine where that rose and skull is in completely different places. Yeah, maybe I put the rose in the eye and you put the rose behind the skull.
Yeah.
But I had a main point for that. There are going to be people who have these things in their mind of how they expect them to come out. People have expectations, and if you don't meet them, there's just some people in this world that you're not able to please as far as the industry goes. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn, I think.
Of course. You can't make everyone happy.
No, you can't. That's an ongoing.
Especially the people that are, I won't call it willful ignorance, but they're kind of ignorant to the fact that there's just certain things you cannot do. Like, hey, putting an arrow on your ribs is just not a good idea.
Oh, it can be done. Don't get me wrong.
But it's just not a good idea. Or putting script, you're like, this is really weird, especially if they're skinny,
I mean,
there's things that just those
don't
are
honestly
yield
a little
well.
more simple than, like,
hands and feet too are a weird one. That like people with their hand.
I don't think I necessarily have problems with that kind of stuff anymore. I think it's more like I definitely wouldn't do somebody's portrait on their ribs. Yeah. You're definitely correct in saying
distortion is what I was getting at. Like,
yeah.
The distortion is just not good there.
For sure. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
They're like, oh, it's hidden. It's a big area, and it's not on my chest. Boom, right there. And it's like, well, it hurts a lot, and it doesn't always turn out exactly the way you thought it was going to look on paper.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing with designing things is that they don't turn out the way that some people think they're going to. So I'm lucky to have enough of really great clientele that kind of understand how my work is and understand how I go about things, and people who are very patient with me and open. And I think that's a very important thing. Almost quit tattooing because I just was overwhelmed and stressed out at one point, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And
because you were doing stuff that was unreasonable and just...
I was trying to please the rest of the world and not realize that I did this job because I love doing it. And I was taking projects I wasn't interested in any way. And it was some boundary that I had to set up that I was like, no, I need to do projects that I really enjoy in some way or another. And I need to work with people that are understanding about my process. At the time, I just wasn't working with understanding people. I was working with very frustrating people.
You also had a hard time with, if I remember correctly, like working with people in communication, like on the spot and like doing consults on the fly.
Oh yeah, well, I have a lot of social anxiety. So naturally, like meeting people for the first time and talking was very hard at the beginning, especially when you just start tattooing. You don't even know what you're doing.
You don't know how to say no either.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a personal issue.
But even then, you're
so much of a yes man, and I didn't know how to say no to anybody. So I've gotten away from that, thankfully. But I'm thankful because right now with the coronavirus situation, everything is by appointment. I get to, handle my own schedule and know when people are going to come in to talk to me. And
I'm sure when things, in air quotes, go back to normal, you're still going to be like, yeah, I much prefer emails.
yeah, I mean, I have people come in for consultations almost every time.
You still talk to them in person, but you also have a filter between, someone walking in and like on the spot being like, yeah, I want a full sleeve of this, and this. And you're like, buddy.
I've gotten a lot better about it. Because when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. People would want to know cost, which is a normal thing to want to know during consultations.
You have a use case basis now?
Yeah. So, I have a running rate now. At the time, I didn't. I know generally how long things are going to take me now.
Okay.
And at the time, helps. I didn't.
Got a good sample size.
Yeah. It's learning through experience is like a very big part of tattooing. And also, so it's experience and faking it till you make it. Those are the big running.
I'm sure a lot of things are like that.
Oh, but tattooing, it's like such a running joke that we all have. Just all of us, almost at the end of the day, sometimes are like, I have no idea what I'm doing. That looks like the right color red. Sure. And then,
sure. If not, we'll fix it later or we'll cry about it later.
Yeah. So it's, it's all trial and error. And every single tattoo you do is different. That's why it's never boring. Even if I go into work and tattoo something I don't want to, it's never boring. I either have like a good conversation with a client, or it's a unique project, or like skin is different every time, needle size is different. It's always different. Every day is never the same.
No forearm tattoo is the same forearm tattoo.
Yeah. I mean, you have duplicates. People come in for matching tattoos, but even then.
Those are both different skins.
Different skins, different areas, different. People, yep. Yeah. For sure.